Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Mr. Rosenstein, welcome. It's good to see you again. I'm aware from having been a state senator in Maryland for a decade of your excellent service as U.S. Attorney there, and thank you for your service to your country now. My first question is about the Emoluments Clause, which you know forbids the collection of foreign government payments by the President of the United States and other public officials. More than 180 members of the U.S. Congress brought a lawsuit in the District of Columbia against the President's continuing collection of foreign government money for the Trump Hotel, the Trump Tower, Trump golf courses, and so on. The Department of Justice took the position that we don't have standing to raise that. If members of Congress whose permission is required under the Emoluments Clause do not have standing to raise the President's violation of the clause, how do we deal with the problem?
Congressman, that, as you mentioned, it's pending litigation. The Department has taken its position in court. It'll be the judge's determination whether or not that position prevails, and I don't have anything to say beyond that. The court will make that decision.
Thank you. You said that Robert Mueller is a dedicated, respected, and a heroic public servant whose distinguished military career and career as a prosecutor make him eminently qualified, perhaps singularly qualified, to be running the special counsel investigation right now. He's also a registered Republican, nominated as FBI director by President Bush, and unanimously confirmed by every Republican and Democrat in Congress. Is his judgment impaired, or are his decisions suspect because he's a registered Republican?
No.
Do criminal prosecutors and investigators have a right to contribute money to candidates for public office?
Yes.
And there are members of this committee who, as prosecutors at the federal or state level, gave thousands of dollars of contributions while they were prosecutors to candidates for office. Do you think that that would be the grounds for overturning verdicts that they received against criminal defendants?
No.
Okay. So I want to ask you this. On the eve of this hearing, we got a dump of hundreds of text messages that we've been spending most of the day talking about between Mr. Strzok and Ms. Page. And they no doubt make for fascinating reading. It's a little bit like Anna Karenina to go through them. And they are, of course, equal opportunity critics of public officials. They trash Bernie Sanders. They trash Senator O'Connell. They trash Martin O'Malley, the governor of our state. And, of course, they trash Donald Trump, who is repeatedly called an idiot. And at one point, I think Mr. Strzok says, watching the Republican debates, OMG, he's an idiot, which hardly qualifies him for any awards for originality or exceptional insight. You probably could have found that in millions of tweets across the country. But I was amazed to learn from Business Insider that the Department of Justice had invited a select group of reporters yesterday evening to DOJ to screen these emails, to look at these private emails. And I'm wondering whether you know of any precedent of the Department of Justice calling reporters, asking them to come in to look at part of an ongoing investigation outside of a press conference, or even if that's taken place during a press conference. I was amazed. Can you just explain that?
I'm accountable, Congressman, but as you know, I'm not the public affairs officer, so I wouldn't know what the precedent was. But generally speaking, our goal is to be as forthcoming with the media as we can when it's lawful and appropriate to do so. So I would not approve anybody disclosing things that weren't appropriate to disclose.
Do you know of any other cases where material in an ongoing investigation were released by the press officer to reporters?
I don't know the details, Congressman, but...
And are you aware of the IG rule, which says that material in an ongoing investigation cannot be released?
Yes, I appreciate that. No, when this inquiry came in from the Congress, we did consult with the Inspector General, and he determined that he had no objection to the release of the material. If he had, I can assure you I would not have authorized the release.
Okay. There's been much propagandistic talk today about fruit of the poisonous tree. And so, you know, they're in a mad wild goose chase for a villain, and they found their villain in Mr. Strzok, who was promptly removed from the investigation by Mr. Mueller. But they're saying, well, there might be fruit from the poisonous tree here. And, of course, fruit of the poisonous tree is a fourth of that relates to evidence that derives from an illegal search or seizure. Have you heard any allegation of Mr. Strzok or any other agent in this case having conducted an illegal search or seizure?
No.
Thank you very much for your testimony.